My friends, hello and welcome to the channel. Right now is an exciting time to be a Tarkov player, because it finally happened. For better or for worse, Escape from Tarkov has officially hit 1.0. And those of us who have been following this project for 8 or more years have finally seen a day that many of us simply thought might never come. In a lot of ways, I can't help but just feel hyped that we're finally here. And in this video, I want to talk about my initial impressions of Tarkov 1.0. It's been a long road to 1.0, and that road has been a bumpy ride sometimes, but we're here. And now it's time for us to see if the destination was really worth the perils of the journey that we took to get here. For some of us, the answer is probably no, and for others, yes, and a lot of people, I am sure, fall somewhere in between. 1.0 has been talked and theorized about for so long by so many people that I'm honestly not sure if it ever truly could live up to the expectations that some of us have set for it. I think that at some point our fantasies of what 1.0 could be grew much larger than what 1.0 was likely to be. And in some ways, this was both a blessing and a curse. Our speculation and frankly our imaginations kept a lot of us invested in this game for years because of the seemingly limitless possibilities for what Tarkov could be at full release. This kept the hype for Tarkov simmering even for people who burned out on the beta gameplay loop potentially years ago. It's easy to get burnt out on Tarkov. By nature, it is a frustrating and punishing experience. But to many, many people, the thought of what BSG was cooking behind the scenes was tantalizing enough that it was essentially guaranteed most of us would be back to see what full release really meant for this game. And now, at long last, it is here, and for better or for worse, what we got is simply more of the Tarkov that we know and or love, just with more layers of Tarkov on top of the Tarkov we already Tarkoved. That might sound kinda sarcastic, but I do say it with love. I think many of us had this expectation that 1.0 would be some dramatic shift in how the game played, how systems worked in the game, how the economy was set up, and just the general flow of the gameplay. Whether we were right or wrong in holding those expectations is up for debate, but I do think it's true. A lot of people, myself included, hoped and kind of expected that Tarkov 1.0 would feel massively different than the Tarkov beta. And when it turned out that 1.0 was kind of just regular old beta Tarkov with more layers of quests and stuff on top of it, it's pretty easy to see how some people might feel kind of underwhelmed. Personally, I fall somewhere in the middle. I truly do find it thrilling that we finally made it to 1.0. I have no real way of knowing if this is what BSG intended for Tarkov to be at full release, or if it's simply where we ended up because development had to finish eventually. But either way, I'm excited to see what surprises BSG has in store for us as we journey through the story of Tarkov and attempt to actually escape from Tarkov for real this time. The main story of Tarkov is undeniably the biggest piece of content in the full release package. And I think for many, or even most of us Tarkov players, the story quests have for years been the single biggest question mark hanging over the development of this game. BSG has talked about it so cryptically over the years, and somehow they also managed to essentially keep it a complete secret for the entire beta period. We had plenty of lore for Tarkov drop over the years, but nobody actually knew what the story quests were going to be like. For years, I had this vivid picture in my head of standalone cinematic missions with scripted events and AI followers. Something almost totally separate from the main loot and scoot gameplay loop of Tarkov that we know and love. I think I always did kind of know that that wouldn't be the case, but it was my pipe dream. So far, and from what I have experienced after about 12 hours chipping away at the first few main story missions, it is just kind of more layers of Tarkov stapled onto our Tarkov. At first, I found this kind of disappointing. I was let down by the fact that the first main story objectives were barely different than a daily quest. Survive customs and pick up 5 building materials. Wow, that's so thrilling. But after doing some more of the first chapter and unlocking 2 more chapters while exploring Tarkov, I'm feeling much more optimistic about the whole thing. And I still have faith that we are in for some surprises as we go deeper down this rabbit hole. First and foremost, I started thinking about the story and the new early game process of unlocking the maps one by one through tasks from the different traders. It was kind of jarring for me as a long-time player who's used to just being able to play all the maps and do everything immediately. But from the perspective of a fresh player, I think this is actually kind of a solid introduction to the whole experience. The first few sections of the first chapter of the main story involve meeting each individual trader and doing a small favor for them in exchange for information about routes between the major locations in Tarkov, which essentially unlocks the map and the trader for you to select in the raid screen. It's honestly pretty immersive in my opinion. We start as a small fish in the Tarkov pond. Nobody knows who we are and nobody cares about us. We need to earn trust and gather intel and supplies to prepare to go deeper, learn what happened in Tarkov, explore the place, and eventually get out. For a new player, going to each map one at a time, meeting each trader one at a time, and doing small, manageable tasks for them is kind of a solid introduction to the whole gameplay loop. And honestly, it might leave them better prepared than simply saying, okay, here's 10 maps and a bunch of traders, have fun, good luck. The addition of small cutscenes and dialogue exchanges between you and the traders is simple, but also more effective at delivering the lore and story beats than the walls of text that we had previously, and those still exist for anyone who wants that extra information. The thing that made me reconsider my initial thoughts on the main story quest was when I walked past the plane crashed in the woods map, and as I stepped close to it, I got a notification that a new main story chapter had unlocked simply because I discovered the downed plane for the first time. Oh. Started a new campaign chapter by touching the plane. That's actually really cool. Because they were talking about the plane in the quest dialogue and I didn't get a quest to come here. So I guess you can trigger it by just going near the place. Oh, cool. I was initially kind of disappointed with how the first chapter was turning out, because I thought it was just going to be this linear process of completing all these little tasks and then moving on to the next chapter one at a time. But once I realized that no, actually, the player has the ability to go and explore Tarkov on their own and uncover new chapters and storylines to the main quest, triggered by visiting some of the most iconic locations in the game and finding secrets, I almost immediately felt the excitement start to build up for me again. I went on to complete some more of this new quest line, and I learned some interesting stuff about that plane and the people who were on it, why it crashed in the forest, and what that means for Tarkov as a whole. Then later on in the day, I discovered another chapter for the main quest, once again just by exploring, totally unprompted. This time I found evidence of an important Bear PMC squad that had been out of contact with HQ, and was given objectives to investigate more bear camps, learn about their fate, and hopefully uncover the secrets that they were initially sent to investigate. At this point, I was more than intrigued. We've only had one day to explore Tarkov 1.0, and already I feel like there's finally something more than just looting and shooting for me to do in Tarkov. I feel compelled to go explore, to go to some of the places in Tarkov that for years I've wondered what role they will play in the Tarkov story, because now I actually get to find out what role they played in the Tarkov story. I actually really love that there's hidden chapters that can only be unlocked by carefully exploring the maps and being curious about what happened in some of these iconic locations. I love that we don't just have automatic unlocks of all these missions like we do with the side quests, and I love the idea of suddenly being sent on a new adventure because I decided to go investigate a downed plane or a camp in the woods or a scary dungeon in the basement of a building. Outside of the main story, Tarkov 1.0 also added a lot of the stuff that we've come to expect out of Tarkov wipes. We have new weapons, including a long-awaited one for me, the M16, which I'm really excited to get my hands on. We have some map expansions, most notably on Interchange, which got a pretty substantial amount of new stuff around the perimeter of the map. And of course, everyone's favorite, we got the usual audio and graphical improvements that actually made the audio and graphics worse. Now that right there, that's classic Tarkov. But honestly, we should know after playing this game for so many years that every time they mess with the game, we have this awkward growing pains period where they need to re-optimize their improvements so that they're actually improvements. There was also the classic wipe day server issues and connection problems, which at this point are just part of the Tarkov patch day tradition. Maybe I'm going easy on BSG because I'm feeling hyped up about Tarkov right now, but I find it hard to really get too bent out of shape about these technical issues at this point. We've been through this so many times and it always stabilizes eventually. Is it ideal? Definitely no. Can we deal with it for a week or two and then still enjoy the game for the next 6 months? Yes, we definitely can. We've done it like 25 times. So there are my initial thoughts on Tarkov 1.0 and how I'm feeling about all this so far. Take it with a grain of salt because we're only 1 day into the patch. Opinions can change, and maybe the rest of the main quest isn't as exciting as I'm hoping. But as of right now, I'm pretty excited to see what there is to discover and what it's like to actually escape from Tarkov eventually. Currently, I plan on trying to keep playing on the PvP servers for as long as I can stay sane while doing so. But if I eventually do just get frustrated by tryhards gatekeeping my fun, I might switch to PvE and just get it done. I don't really want to, but it's nice to have that option as a fallback plan. But what do you think? Am I going too easy on BSG because I'm feeling nostalgic about Tarkov right now? Have you been enjoying the process of uncovering the Tarkov story and trying to escape? Or do you feel like it's just too similar to what we've been doing for the last 8 years? Have you uncovered any secret chapters to the main story? If so, let me know down in the comments, but please do it in the most spoiler-free way possible. Thanks for checking out the video. I have a link to my Twitch stream in the description if you want to come check out some Tarkov gameplay live. And until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City, everyone.